Clerk will call the roll.
Glenn Whitley, County Judge.
Here.
Roy C. Brooks, Commissioner Precinct 1.
Present.
Andy H. Wynn, Commissioner Precinct 2.
Here.
Gary Fickus, Commissioner Precinct 3.
Here.
J.D. Johnson, Commissioner Precinct 4.
Here.
Constitutes a quorum.
Thank you. Our invocation this morning will be delivered by Iman Mushahed Bakash from the Islamic Association of Tarrant County. Thank you for coming out today. After the invocation, please remain standing for our pledges.
Shall we pray? Our Lord, we thank you for the joy and the privilege that we pray together. You are the Lord of the heaven and the earth, and you are the mercy of mercies. Grant us all your mercy and forgiveness for our shortcomings. Lord, you are the source of justice and peace. We sincerely seek your divine wisdom, support, and blessings upon our honorable commissioners. Guide them to stand for the truth and justice, for hope, security, and freedom for all the time. Lord, help us all to assume our responsibilities and deliver our obligations to all citizens of our beloved city of Fort Worth. Protect our city, state, and our nation and its people from any evil and enemies. Our Lord, accept this service from us, pour upon us patience and constancy to make the difference in the lives of many of our fellow beings, and lay not on us a burden greater than we have strength to bear. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Imam, it's good to see you again. Welcome.
Thank you for coming out today. Mr. Manius, agenda announcements.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the Court, we do not have any announcements that specifically relate to the agenda this morning. However, we would like to remind the Court that this coming Saturday at 3 p.m. at the building that houses the Public Health Department, located at 1101 South Main Street, that there will be an unveiling and a renaming of that building for Dr. Marion Brooks. And we invite all the court members and all of the Tarrant County family to be in attendance. As I said, it will be at 3 o'clock this coming Saturday.
Thank you. Court members, you have before you the minutes of our regular meeting of May the 31st.
Move approval. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Vote. Motion passes unanimously. For our proclamations and resolutions, Commissioner Brooks, I believe you have a proclamation.
Your Honor, this morning we're honoring a very outstanding woman, Ms. Dorothy Louise Stewart. If you would please read the proclamation into the record, then we'll get on with it.
Whereas Dorothy Louise Stewart, one of Fort Worth and Tarrant County's favorite educators, is being honored for her years of dedication and commitment in enriching the lives of children, and whereas she is currently the longest tenured teacher in the Fort Worth Independent School District, and whereas Mrs. Stewart will retire this year after 55 years of teaching, 54 in Fort Worth Independent School District, and whereas she is a native of Fort Worth who was born to Robert Lee Richards and Madonna Reed Richards and raised on Baptist Hill located on the east side of Fort Worth. And whereas Ms. Stewart is a graduate of the historic I.M. Terrell High School and Prairie View A&M University, and whereas she is a faithful and active member of Carter Metropolitan CME Church, where she was named Woman of the Year in 2009. And whereas Ms. Stewart is president of the Maids and Matrons Charitable Organization, where she continues to give back to others, now therefore be it resolved that we, the Commissioners Court of Tarrant County, do hereby congratulate Dorothy Louise Stewart for her outstanding achievements and contributions to the community. Be it further resolved that we do hereby proclaim Tuesday, June 7th, 2011, as Dorothy Louise Stewart Day throughout Tarrant County. In witness whereof, we've heretofore set our hands and caused the seal of Tarrant County to be affixed this 7th day of June, 2011.
I will move approval.
I will second.
Motion is second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
55 years educating our children makes Mrs. Dorothy Louise Stewart a bona fide community treasure. And it gives me a great deal of pride to present her with this proclamation. Ms. Stewart, if you would please meet me at the podium.
Thank you. First, I'd like to thank you for the honor, and I enjoyed every day of the 55 years. My children, I learned from them as they learned from me. And I just appreciate so much the city in recognizing a job that I enjoyed. That's why I guess I did it so long. But I thank you for the honor, and I just love children, and as a result, the years just passed. So thanks again to you and to the city of Fort Worth.
Ms. Stewart, I assume that you will not be going away. So when you get a call from Tarrant County offering you an opportunity to give back, say yes.
Thank you and congratulations again. At this time, we will have our employee recognition. And again, it's one of our favorite times. And as I call your name or something that sounds similar to your name, you know, it started off this morning with the invocation. You know, my staff says, well, you know, we usually trip you up a couple of times during the course of the employee recognition, but we've got one that's even, we're going to start the day off right, and we're going to stump you with the minister's name, and you know, we made it through that one. But as you hear your name called, please stand and remain standing until your particular group has gotten recognized. First, our 5-year employees: Rachel Darling, CSCD; Carl Dotson, Constable, Precinct 7; Candace Fay. Carl Dotson was sick today and was not able to make it. Candace Fay, Juvenile Services. Taylor Ferguson, District Attorney's Office. John Good, Sheriff Confinement.
And these are all names you're pronouncing very well.
Yeah, well, just give me a few minutes. Aaron Gray, Sheriff Confinement. Hey, Aaron, thank you for being here. I was going to get a complex here. Gary Harkins, Sheriff Confinement. You guys think I don't watch you. Wayne Johnson, Public Health. Wayne, thank you for being here. Judge Matt King, Magistrates Court. Judge, thank you. Michael Mayer, Medical Examiner's Office. Kelly Miller, District Attorney's Office. Paul Patterson, Information Technology. Steve Rayburn, Election Administrator. Tommy Rigmaiden, Sheriff Confinement. Charlotte Tackett, Tax Office. William Travis, Sheriff Warrants. Veronica Valaquez, or close to it.
Veronica's correct.
One of these days. One of these days, I'm going to call in sick about the first 30 minutes of a First Tuesday. Joseph Vindiola,
Vindiola.
Precinct 4 Maintenance. You ought to be able to pronounce that one.
I can.
Sandra Wolford, Public Health. And Nicole Vertucha, County Clerk.
Not even close.
Zertucha.
That's good.
I just think she's not here. Let's give these 5-year employees a big hand. Thank you all very much. Now for our 10-year employees. David Benton, Sheriff Confinement. Kevin Bruton, Precinct 4 Maintenance. Amanda Campbell, Domestic Relations. Christine Cortez, Information Technology. Leon Gould, Sheriff Booking. Yeah, we had a run going there for a minute. John Hicks, CSCD. Shonda Johnson, Tax Office. Stanley Manship, Sheriff Booking. Thomas McLean, Information Technology. Christopher McKendry, Information Technology. Bina Moore, Tax Office. Rebecca Seeley, Public Health. And Sherry Taylor, Sheriff Laundry. Let's give our 10-year employees a big hand. Now for our 15-year, Dr. Dana Austin, the Medical Examiner's Office. Linda Cords, Tax Office. Timothy Everhart, Sheriff Bond Desk. Pam Leary, CSCD. James McDonald, Sheriff Communications. Kitty Newbern, Juvenile Services. Kimberly Turner, Sheriff's Communication. Donna Zavala.
There you go.
I knew it wasn't right when I kept saying it. Juvenile Services. Let's give our 15 years. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to say something on this day. I took this job 15 years ago as an interim position, and I quickly realized that I was given the best job in Tarrant County. And I just want to thank you all for the opportunity to serve this city.
Thank you very much. And now for our 20-plus years, as you all know by this point in time, we spend a little bit more time calling, and I call and talk with those folks. And so our first 20-year is Chris Carson with Sheriff Booking, 20 years. Where's Chris? There she is. Started at the Belknap as a confinement operation technician, and then moved to Green Bay. And from Green Bay, then ended up in the correction center, and now is in the booking area, I believe. She said in one of the memorable moments, apparently at a couple of points in time in here, the Sheriff's Department has done a yearbook, and where they kind of, I guess, take pictures of the various employees within the department, and it gave them an opportunity to kind of see folks that they'd started work with, and and where they were and what they were doing today. When I asked her what she liked most, she said it was really the people that she'd had a chance to work with over the years. She said the county has really been like a second family, and that she just loves the opportunities that the county has given her. Chris, we appreciate very much the 20 years you've given us. Thank you. Next, yes, you can sit down now. I know I've scared everybody now. They won't sit down unless I can. Next is Mike Failer, Sheriff Confinement. He's been with again with the Sheriff's Department for 20 years. Mike said he started out in the Cold Springs area and then went to the Correction Center, and then as a sergeant worked in the Green Bay area and has now moved back to the Correction Center. When I asked him about his more memorable moments, he said, he remembered when he was working in the old barracks there at Cold Springs. He said he wasn't sure who was more confined or constrained, the officers who were working out there or the prisoners themselves. When I asked him what he liked most, again, it was the great folks that he'd had a chance to work with. It was the attitude and the atmosphere of allowing folks to do their jobs, and the opportunity that the county and that the department offered to its employees. He said the people and their attitudes really were just like a big family, that folks looked out for each other, and that the county had been a great place to work and to live. He said, I remember the first day that I came into the jail and remember what a maze it was, that he'd watched his family kind of grow up as he'd been with the county, and that even today he's looking forward to the opening of the new jail. Mike, we appreciate very much the 20 years you've given to Tarrant County. Next is Rick Collins with Information Technology, 25 years. Started out as a computer operator and actually, I guess, had worked with computers at Carswell prior to coming to the county. He then moved into the data control area and then into the installations of PCs, then worked as an administrator for the dial-in programmers, and now is at our service desk. When I asked him what some of his more memorable moments was, he said, over the years I have talked with hundreds of people, and I'll hear their voice and I'll talk with them many times, but he said it's those opportunities where I then go out and I put the face and meet those folks and have an opportunity to put the face with the voice. When I asked him what he liked most, he said it was the atmosphere, it was that was one big family, the people that he had a chance to work with, and then the opportunities that the county had given him. Rick, we want to thank you very much for the 25 years you've given to the county. Next is Vicki Davis. Where's Vicki? 25 years with the county. Started in the district clerk's office as an associate clerk, and then became the administrative clerk for Judge Leonard. From there, she went to the auxiliary clerk coordinator's office, where she helps out in the different courts. When I asked her about a more memorable moment, she said, I really missed the times when Judge Leonard and Judge Drago were around. She said, I also remember when we opened up the new Justice Center. When I asked her what she liked most, she said it was the consistency that the county had offered over the 25 years that she'd been here. A lot of friends who became more like family than friends, that people stayed here because they loved serving the public. And I really believe that, and I see that in so many of our employees. She still knows and works with people that she started with the very first day. And then as I asked her if there was anything else, she says, it's been a great 25 years, and I'm retiring at the end of this month. And so, Vicki, we really, really want to thank you for the 25 years you've given to Tarrant County. Next is Sharon Oldham from Sheriff's Court, 25 years. Started out as a clerk in the jail and then became a jailer and became a deputy in the jail. Spent her first 25 years working around the jail, spent the last 9 years, I guess, in the release area, and then went to middle warrants for about 4 years. She's now in the courts area as a bailiff in court security. When I asked her what she liked most, she said it was having the opportunity to meet so many nice folks from really all walks of the folks coming in there. She really enjoyed working with her coworkers, that they really were like family, and that she really enjoys having an opportunity to help the people that she's come in contact with over the years. When I asked her if there was anything else, she said, I really feel blessed to have had an opportunity to work here at Tarrant County. Sharon, we feel blessed to have had that opportunity for you to work with us. So thank you for your 25 years of service. Next is Jerry Treadway with Sheriff's Investigation, 25 years. Started out in the old Belknap jail and said I was hired. Lon Evans was sheriff at that point in time, and he hired me. He's really been all over the sheriff's department, has been in investigation for the last 17 years. When I asked him about more memorable moments, he said, I've seen the good and the bad over these years, and he said there's been a lot more good than there has been bad, and he just thinks back and really appreciates the time that he'd been here. Seen a lot of political changes in the last 25 years, and I guess if you think back over it, that's really the case. When I asked him what he liked most, he said the county had been a great opportunity as a place to work, and again, that the folks that he's had a chance to work with over the years let him do his job, and that's something that he appreciated very, very much. Jerry, we appreciate very much the 25 years that you've worked with Tarrant County. And he's saying, and then one other thing, he's retiring at the end of October. And so, again, we want to thank you for the 25 years that you've given to Tarrant County. Now, next is Ann Wood, Justice of the Peace Precinct 2, and she has been with us for 25 years. She was going to be on vacation and is on vacation this week, and so over the next 2 or 3 weeks, if you run into Ann, be sure and congratulate her on the 25 years of service that she's given to Tarrant County. Next is Kevin Granard, Sheriff Confinement for 30 years. Started out in the old Belknap jail and then went to the Cold Springs facility, worked in the Correction Center, and is now Lieutenant in Jail Administration. When I asked about more memorable moments, he said, it was really the whole time with the county. He said it's something that I've looked back on and thought, golly, this was a great place to work. He said, when I came to Tarrant County, I was looking for a job, but what I found was a career, and he certainly made a career. When I asked him about if there was anything else, when I said, can you really believe you've been here 30 years, his only response was, it's really unbelievable. It's really unbelievable. And I tell you what, we appreciate very much, Kevin, the 30 years you have given to Tarrant County. Thank you very much. Our last employee that we're going to recognize today is Delton Thrasher, Constable Precinct 3, 35 years. Now, when I talk with most of these folks, if they're in the law enforcement, they usually started in the jail or started in the sheriff's department, and that's where they're at, or they may have started in the sheriff's department and moved into one of the constables. So, I was fully expecting that Delton was going to tell me that he started in the sheriff's area and then moved over to constable at some point in time. That ain't the case, folks. Delton started in December of '73 as a draftsman in our planning and public works, or in our public works and parks department. Now, a lot of that work is now being done by the community. Yes, we actually, park. Well, it may be parks, and maybe it was always only a park. But anyway, he was in the planning department working on parks. In 1984, he became the administrative assistant for O.L. Watson. And then in 1987, he went to work for the sheriff's department. He left in January of '89 and came back in December of '89 with Constable Precinct 7, and then went to Constable Precinct 3 in June of 2006. So he has been all over the place. Actually, in '73, when he started in the planning department, it was a part of kind of the administrator's office. It was not part of CDB or part of our community development office at this point in time. When I asked him, he's standing up against it. He knows I got a lot to say. He just kind of. When I asked him about his more memorable moments, he said, I can remember working on the bond issue to restore the old courthouse. Not the clock tower, folks, to restore the old courthouse in the late 70s and early 80s. He said, I have seen a lot of members of Commissioners Court come and go. And he's still here. When I asked him what he liked most, he said it was the opportunities that he has had in working for the county, the flexibility that he's had, the people that he's had a chance to work with over the years, and the folks from really all parts of life that he's had a chance to help with. He said he's been here for the good and the bad. Also said that there was much more good than there was bad. He said throughout the years, throughout the 35 years, I always feel like that I've been treated fairly by the county. And I asked him, I said, well, you got 35 years. Have you got where you're looking at? What are you looking? He said, I've targeted December of 2012 as my retirement date. I tell you what, we appreciate very much, Delton, the 35 years that you've given to Tarrant County. Thank you. Now, before everybody gets up and leaves, I'm going to ask Commissioner Fickus. He's got a couple of guests here. He's going to.
We have got with us today, we have two students who are part of a program that is sponsored by Northeast Leadership Forum, and it's called Vital Link, and this is where students who are going into the 8th grade get an opportunity to get involved during this week with either businesses or organizations such as Commissioners Court, Tarrant County government, cities, hospitals, healthcare, and we have two fine individuals with us who brought donuts today, those of you who had the donuts. If you don't, they're right around the corner here. But I'd like to introduce Mariel Williams. Mariel, would you please stand? We have Jack Fuentes. They are both students in the Birdville Independent School District, and I commend them for taking their time in the summer to become involved in this program. They're going to be in our office this week, and so we're going to have a good time. Thank you both, and thank you for being here today. Thank you.
Also, let's go ahead and give them a round of applause. Also, as we close today's meeting, one of our former employees, Jane Barbie, who retired recently from our facilities department, passed away over the weekend. And if it's all right, we would like to close the court today in honor and memory of Jane Barbie. With that, I will recess just for a moment while all of you folks who are celebrating anniversaries can go back to 504C, get your picture taken, and get refreshments. So thank you again.
the award-winning political actions letter.
Court members, you have before you the consent agenda.
Move approval.
Second?
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Manius?
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the court, Ms. Ward is going to be presenting item A1 to the court at this time.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Oh, my glasses, sorry. Today we're requesting the submission of a revised action plan in Forms 424 to HUD to reflect the final numbers for the allocations for community development, home, and ESG. The numbers varied slightly from our preliminary allocations, and the total amount for CDBG difference is $72. The total amount for home is $67, and the total amount for ESG is $46,169,000. And the variance in that amount is because they're changing the program over to Emergency Solutions Grant, and we'll probably come back around October and submit an advised program for you when we receive the additional funds. But the program does not change substantially. There are minor changes, and if you will approve that, we will submit the revised program to HUD for funding.
Move approval.
Well, second?
We have a motion and a second. Any questions? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I move to receive and file personnel agenda.
Second.
We have a motion to receive and file personnel agenda. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Good
Thank
morning,
you.
Ms. Glenn.
Good morning.
Mr. Beecham.
Your Honor, the members of the court, we have two items for your consideration this morning. Our first item is a bid award recommendation for our bid number 2011-082. This is an annual contract for our miscellaneous medical supplies and disposables. Recommendation will be to award on a per unit price basis, awarding to the 19 primary vendors and 17 secondary vendors as seen in your court communique. Last year's expenditures were approximately $110,000.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Our second last item is an item in regards to bid number 2011-086. This is an annual contract for our truck and bus repairs. We are recommending rejection of all bids and seeking permission to rebid with revised specifications.
Because,
Quite honestly, we didn't do a very good job of contacting all the prospective vendors. There were vendors in precinct number 4 that weren't contacted, and we feel like if we don't reject those bids, there will be an issue. We'd like to fix the problem before there is a problem.
so how are you going to revise the specs?
We are going to try something different, which we've never done before in this venue. We plan to make this a request for qualifications to allow more people, more vendors to potentially bid on this. Actually open it up to split the truck and bus repairs. And we've averaged the pricing on the 3 bids that we did receive. We're going to suggest a standard labor rate to hold our costs down.
Move approval.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Jack? Jack?
Yes, sir.
Do you have something going on tonight in your operation at the Sheridan with Valina?
Thursday.
Sir?
Thursday.
Is it Thursday?
Yes,
You really
sir.
want to clarify that and take that a little bit further, I think, than
Not
just...
tonight, huh?
It's Thursday.
Okay. I have it on my calendar for tonight. I guess I didn't need to show up, huh?
One of us will be early or late.
I know, but it is Thursday.
That's what I understand, yes, sir.
I'm glad you told me that.
Y'all want to clue in the rest of us?
Well, that's why I asked Jack to tell us about it.
It's about the ABC, about building capacity. It's a after-hours meeting with all the people in the Metroplex, with the city and BNSF Railroad. Commissioners, some of you are going to be there Thursday. But I'll double check and be sure it is Thursday, but I'm 99% sure, but I will.
It's fine, Thursday.
It is. You're
Thursday. Well, we were trying to get ahead of the game at my office, and so.
Go ahead.
Save us a parking place if you find one, but.
I will.
Thank you.
Could I see you right after court here?
Yes, sir.
You again.
Do we have any, Commissioner Fickus, I believe you have an interlocal agreement.
I do. And bear with me here a minute. City of Fort Worth, this is for work we're going to be doing on Ray White. This is a project we're working with City of Fort Worth, and I'd move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Appointments? Being none, then you have before you the claims, including the addendum.
Move approval of the claims, including the addendum.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the claims, including the addendum. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Briefing items, Mr. Manius.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the Court, we have one item to bring to you this morning. This is item A, which is the legislative issues. Also would like to introduce a gentleman. This is Mark Mendez. He used to come down to our office quite a bit.
I thought they were
He's
still in
been
session.
Austin.
What are you doing here?
Welcome home.
Thank you. Thank you. Good to be back. Yes, sir, they are still in session, special session. There are 4 items on the call. Thankfully, none of them affect county government directly. We are still monitoring it very closely in case something does pop up. There are 4 issues on their call currently. 2 of them have to do with the budget, school funding, Medicaid funding, congressional redistricting, which they pretty much completed, and the Texas Wind Insurance Agency is also a part of the call, and they will probably wrap that up at the end of this week. So hopefully they will be allowed to come home either late this week or early next week. The regular session was pretty successful, I think, in our opinion. We played defense primarily. There were over 5,700 bills filed. We tracked about 1,200 of those as having potential impact on county government. 1,374 of those were sent to the governor for his signature, and so far 1 has been vetoed, and that having to do with the internet sales tax issue. I think the big win for counties and cities had to do with the defeat of any effort to establish an appraisal cap or a revenue cap. We were successful in killing those bills that were filed directly to do that, and we killed all the vehicle bills also. That was a fight all the way to the very end of the session, and I want to thank y'all for any phone calls that you made on our behalf in those regards. That was a joint effort with the cities and all the counties across the state. It was a hard fight. The budget was a huge issue this time around, not an issue that I normally deal with during a regular session. It was a learning curve for all county advocates in that regard. I think we were successful in minimizing the impacts to local government, especially in the area of mental health funding, juvenile and adult probation, diversionary programs in our criminal justice areas, and indigent defense. I think we either managed to maintain the previous biennium's funding or minimize the cuts that had been proposed in the initial budget proposals. Where we did take some big hits in the budget had to, in the area of mixed beverage taxes. I think the comptroller's estimate for Tarrant County government was about $2.9 million in a reduction for the current biennium. And criminal justice grants, I think...
That's money that the state is not giving up. They're not failing to collect. They're just failing to remit it to counties.
Yes, sir. They've changed the formula by which they reimburse the counties.
They're keeping it.
They're keeping it, yes, sir. And also a big hit, not directly an impact to local governments, but to our efforts to maintain air quality. The Texas Emission Reduction Plan and the LIRAP program took huge cuts So I think those were the big losses for out of the budget so far. We're still trying to identify a lot of the details in those proposals, and when this special session is ended, we will have a more accurate picture of what those impacts will be. Transportation, a big issue. There was some good legislation passed regarding transportation. I think you've seen the reports coming from the COG and from Vic Soom's group. There's new bonding authority. There is approval for the use of transportation reinvestment zones. CDA authority for the North Tarrant Express was approved. Expediting of environmental reviews for projects in our area was also approved. I think there was a lot of small things and positive things in the area of transportation. Unfortunately, our unfunded mandate provision that was a constitutional amendment proposal, we failed on that account. Even though we had almost 100 co-sponsors in the House, that bill never got to the floor. It got out of committee, but it got caught up in all the rigmarole towards the end of the session.
Surprise, surprise. But those 100 people were there with us.
Yes, sir, they were. We'll take another shot at it. That's the furthest we've ever gotten that proposal in the process. So we think there's some good momentum there, and we had a lot of support from our delegation. Tarrant County initiatives, y'all asked us to get filed 8 provisions. We got 5 of those. The court now has the authority to make the decision on behalf of the hospital district for participation in tax increment financing agreements. The county has more control over software that is developed in-house as far as negotiating the sale of that and to do that. We now have the option to establish a county court at law level truancy court, similar to the program Dallas County has. We've expanded the authority of our criminal magistrates in order to make our criminal justice system a little more efficient in expediting the dockets there. And we were successful in achieving the ability to inspect daycare centers on behalf of cities if the public health department wishes to enter in contracts with the cities. Where we were unsuccessful was 2 bills that we filed to increase some fees. We found out early on in the process that the governor had intended to either veto all new fee bills or, unless they had been pre-approved by his office, our attempts to get that pre-approval through his office were unsuccessful. So that was pretty much taken off the table for us before we got too far in the process. The final thing that we had attempted was some increased enforcement of manufactured rental communities, manufactured housing rental communities in the unincorporated areas. We ran into a brick wall with the industry lobby on that one. And frankly, all land use proposals, this wasn't a session for that kind of increased authority for counties this session. There was quite a bit of distraction with other matters. That's pretty much it in a nutshell as far as our efforts. There will be a detailed report that I will be preparing as soon as the veto period is over, which will be on or after June the 19th. Until then, the governor has the authority to veto any legislation that was passed during the regular session, and I will be bringing that report to y'all shortly thereafter. Yes, sir.
Would you explain the new or proposed election date scenario, and isn't this dependent on a constitutional amendment passed?
You got Steve Rayburn, our elections administrator, sitting back there.
Steve is much more, I work very closely with Steve on that issue, and he probably can answer those questions a lot better than I can.
Steve, come on down.
Come on down.
I noticed that Mr. Wilder is now in appearance, and I look back here and notice the donuts are gone, so.
Well, I hope I can remember all the pertinent dates that you're interested in. Senate Bill 100 did pass. Changes the primary election stays on the first Tuesday in March. I think you probably all are aware that the filing deadline now for the primary is shifted back into December. somewhere around the middle of the month. I don't recall the exact
The
date.
deadline?
The deadline to file for office is now in December rather than January 2nd.
So it'll start in November?
I believe it's November 12th through December 12th is the filing period. And I believe that we're looking at having a constitutional amendment on the ballot in November that would eliminate or fix the resign to run issue if you have more than a year remaining on your term and you decide to run for a different office. So the primary remains on the first Tuesday in March. The primary runoff moves into May because of the federal requirement for having 45 days to mail ballots to people who are overseas. In the past, we didn't even have a total of 45 days between the primary and the primary runoff. So the primary runoff is now, I believe, the fourth Tuesday in May. Of course, that creates a lot of logistical difficulties because of the city and school district elections and other local political subdivisions. That election remains on the second Saturday in May, and so there's really a likelihood that we won't be able to accommodate cities and school districts who have elections on May of even-numbered years. The bill is giving them a lot of different options, and I don't completely understand all of the things that are open for them, but there's a lot of options for them to change the length of their terms, to move their elections to only odd years in May if they prefer. They also have the opportunities to move their elections to November.
The reason we might not be able to accommodate them is because we'd be in early voting for whatever runoff we might have.
Yes, sir, that's correct. And the way that our testing requirements for all of the voting equipment, we essentially have to test all of the equipment that's going to be used for a particular election before we mail the ballot. So we have to test and prepare that voting equipment 50 days or more before Election Day. So the equipment for the primary runoff will be set aside and not available for the city and school district elections.
So you could conceivably have a city election on, let's say, the 14th of May. I think that's when it was this time. And the new runoff election for partisan offices from the March primary would be the 4th?
Fourth Tuesday
Of
May.
So that could be the 22nd
Right.
of the month. So when do you do your early voting?
For the
And not that that may ever happen, but
for the primary runoff,
for the primary runoff.
the early voting is, the election's on a Tuesday, and the early voting period is the Monday through Friday preceding that Tuesday election.
Okay. Okay.
So the 45 days is before the early voting begins?
For which election?
Let me finish my question. You could conceivably have a municipal school board election on a Saturday, and then this election for the primary runoff could be 10 days later.
Yes, sir.
You start early voting the next Monday after the city election?
Yes, sir.
Do you have the equipment to do that?
No, sir, I don't believe that we do. Not if we have a really big primary and a big runoff. Most of these city and school elections now, essentially that's another countywide election for us. So we wouldn't have the
They thought
resources.
this out pretty well, didn't they?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And is this being triggered by federal law or by state law?
Yes, sir, but mostly by federal, the Federal Move
State
Act.
folks, but I'll defend them on this one.
There was an issue last night at Mayor's Council. They talked about this issue, and the significant impact is going to be on municipalities because the counties now do not have a requirement to support municipalities or school districts on their elections if they can't afford it. And they're talking about municipal elected officials moving to even-numbered years in their terms. Remember, some municipal have 3 years, and then the option of having those elections on the odd years. So but there's some really significant changes for municipalities on this.
That means a whole lot of cities are going to have charter elections to change their election.
Actually, the legislation, I believe the legislature is going to allow them to change that by adopted resolution of the council.
So, but you've got cities that are very happy with a 3-year term that probably don't want to go to a 2-year term.
It's going to be very difficult for them. Those that are, if they have to, if you have a 3-year term and the city chooses to go to an even numbered term, then those will automatically roll into a 4-year term upon passage of a resolution of the city council.
And if they decide to keep the 3-year term, they have the option of purchasing voting equipment or leasing it from a vendor, or they could hold their elections in November.
And then they'd be right in the middle of all
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
nonpartisan election with a partisan election. Okay.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you. And thank you for my service award. It really has been a wonderful 5 years here, and I look forward to many more. I left a really good situation to come here, and it's been just nothing but better since I've been here. I really enjoy working with the court and all of the other county employees, and it's been a pleasure, so thank you.
Just wait.
That's all I had, Your Honor. I'll be happy to answer any other questions. Any questions?
I just want to tell Mark he did an extraordinary job.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's all we have at this time, Your Honor.
We'll now recess our open session and proceed to closed session to discuss items exempted under sections 551.071, 072, 074, 076, and 087 of the Texas Government Code. Having returned from closed session and there being no business at this time, we will stand adjourned, again in memory of Ms. Barbie.